So while we're doing that, let's introduce our speakers. They're going to take us home. First of all, props to Dave. If anybody who was here this morning, first session, early, we're all tired and everything else. Yeah. So Dave Zimmer from Amazon Fire TV was here. The first session, he's here for the last session. Let's give him a round of applause right here. Awesome job. Thank you, Dave. And so, Dave, why don't you reintroduce yourself, and then we'll go to Prem.
Hello there, I'm Dave Zimmer. I've been with Amazon for 13 years. I didn't say that this morning. I also launched Kindle, Echo, Alexa, Fire TV 5 or 6 years ago. I don't highlight, I also launched Fire Phone, which didn't go quite as well. Once again, I'm responsible for all the ad-enabled, ad-supported experiences on Fire TV, so that includes all the licensing and business models for acquiring the content. Then I also do all of the products that you see on Fire TV from a display and video advertising standpoint. I'm responsible for all the monetization strategies, and then I do all the content discovery and all the kind of playback experiences when you're watching AVOD type of experiences on Amazon.
So David's not very accomplished. Eventually he'll do something right. No, fantastic. Thank you for that.
Fire phone.
Did you hear that? Yeah, that's right. Thank you for the humility. But did you hear the question about Alexa earlier? I don't know if you.
I know. I did get that. Curtis and I have talked already.
Oh, you have. Good. Okay, Prem.
Hi, I'm Prem Parameswaran. I'm the president of Eros now for the Americas. Eros is the largest Indian OTT platform in the world. We have over 12,000 digital rights. We also do short-form clips called Eros Now Quickies. So like Quibi, we're Quickies. We started out as a studio, Eros International. We're listed publicly on the NYSE. And I've been with the company for 4 years. Prior to that, I was an investment banker for 23 years.
Very big company, too. Where do you guys fit in terms of the pantheon of OTT services globally?
Globally, we have over 142 million registered users. We have 16 million monthly paying subscribers as of December 31st. We're on a fiscal year. We haven't reported our numbers for the fiscal year. So we're large. There was a Morgan Stanley report that came out literally about a couple months ago that had the top 4, actually had all of the top 10 global OTT providers. It had Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and we were 4th, actually, ahead of Showtime, HBO, et cetera, going forward. So we're growing. Obviously, India, surprise. OTT, streaming, sexy.
147 million, that's huge. And Erick?
Hi, I'm Erick. Okay. Hey. Hi, I'm Erick Opeka. I'm the president at Cinedigm. Cinedigm is a large film and television studio, and we're also a distributor of OTT channels, content, and services. We operate about 12 different streaming services in a whole wide array of genres, both in subscription, linear, and ad-supported on demand. About 2 months ago, we announced the acquisition of Future Today, which is a large provider of ad-supported OTT applications, about 700. So I'm picking up about 700 additional OTT applications that we're bringing to the rest of the ecosystem. So lots going on.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. And Deepakjit.
My name is Deepak. I head up a company known as Amagi. Like everybody has been having all the companies since morning who are really in the face. They are the B2C companies sort of a thing. We are a typical B2B companies, and since morning, I think so, at least 50% of the panelists who have come here have been our customers. Even on this panel, I have one of my customers sitting with me.
Prospects.
We are a B2B company. We provide the brain behind delivering these channels to the platforms and monetization of these channels and all the SSAIs and all that. Well, in the morning, I heard somebody in the panel saying, this is difficult, this is difficult, this is difficult. I was sitting there, and I said, hold on, we just do all this. So might be my salespeople have not done a good job of getting to those guys, but we provide all the facilities and the technology behind being able to deliver all this.
Awesome. So here's what we're going to do in this panel. I invited Kurt back up on stage to co-moderate this with me because he really did all the work on this. So we did a survey of our community vast community, 50,000. I'm sure we got a 0.00% response on that. And we came up with the top 5 burning issues that all of you think are important to talk about with our all-star panel. So the rules are we can talk about anything we already covered today, and we will, and then the survey. And because I'm somewhat stealing Kurt's thunder, why don't you start with the first question, Kurt? What was the top burning issue that the community wanted to discuss with our all-star lineup here? Oh, sure, you cheat sheet. No, you got to do it from memory.
So everybody's really interested in ad-based monetization and the potential of ad-based monetization, because everybody sees how successful SVOD has been, and everybody's been jumping on that model, but of course, not everybody can do that, right? AVOD still seems to be, I'm sure there are people who would argue that it's not nascent, but I think it's got a long road. I think it's got a lot of legs. I think advertisers need a place to be able to reach their audiences, and this is where it's going to be. So I'd like to hear what you think about ad-based monetization potential, and if you sort of share my enthusiasm or maybe not.
I'll go first, I guess. I think, look, the entertainment has traditionally, for the longest period of time, since it was started, been an ad-based model, right? If you look at today, consumers' wallets are stressed. They're being asked to subscribe to more and more services. If I see one more, box company, subscription as a service, lifestyle as a service, there's too many. People are being overwhelmed by subscription services to the point where they can't even remember what they've subscribed to, not subscribed to. People have had enough of that. So I think what we're going to see is a real backlash against this overwhelming tide of trying to turn every transaction into a subscription. And I think that's where, so that doesn't mean that there's no room for subscriptions in entertainment. I think subscriptions will be entirely based upon the amount of value that you can provide. So it's either going to become through catalog breadth, through a massive catalog, or extremely high quality programming that you can't get elsewhere, or some other extenuating factor, bundling in other lifestyle elements. Outside of that, I think it's going to be very difficult to subscribe. There's going to be exceptions. So that's, so we've bet a lot on the company. That's why we acquired Future Today. That's why we're investing heavily in the ad-supported side. I think that said, I think, look, there's 28% or so of the consumption today is happening in OTT. A huge piece of that being in the ad-supported, but only 3% of the ad dollars are being spent there today, right? I've heard that statistic a lot lately. Meanwhile, you have in linear television providers, the business model of charging more for less will eventually, the wheels will come off. So I think that those three factors combined create a very compelling situation if you're building a focused ad-supported business. So that's just my thought at a very high level, but I'm very bullish on it.
Seems rational.
Yeah.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, please.
No, so I agree. I think if you've sat through all the sessions today, a couple of the big themes were AVOD and then live and linear. And if you look at AVOD in particular, at least on the Amazon platform, almost our 34 million active users, 40% of them are using an AVOD service every month. And so that's grown tremendously. It's more than tripled year over year. And so there's a lot of growth. It was already big. You heard from people like Tubi already, but it's growing dramatically. I think that those themes have come out throughout the day. One thing that really hasn't been touched on as much, but Carissa, who I just love listening to, highlighted, is that the ad experience still is not great on the AVOD experiences in terms of the ad impressions. There's too many impressions. They're not relevant. They're not interesting and professionally done. And that, I think, kind of speaks to some of the challenges we've had recently on trying to get to reach. And one of the things that Amazon's been doing recently is starting to kind of broadcast the numbers like 34 million. In the past, if you ever knew Amazon, we didn't talk about any numbers. Now we have to say that number so that advertisers pay attention to the OTT space for advertising. We used to not say that we were #1 in the US, UK, DE, Japan and India. But now we have to go and highlight the reach in every one of those countries is important to those advertisers. And so we have to get that flywheel working a little bit better, where we get better advertisements coming into the OTT space and getting the impressions capped and getting more relevant advertisements out there. So I think while we've seen the great rush in 2019 to AVOD, I think 2019, 2020 will be in terms of getting higher quality ads going into those services.
Prem, do you want to jump in on that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it still all starts with content, right? So if you have premium content, whether you're an SVOD model or an AVOD model, people will come. So that's the first premise. The second is, I actually agree with the premise of the question that Kurt raised, because, you know, a couple years from now, you're not going to have, you know, you're not going to pay $10 for Netflix, $10 for Amazon, $10 for Eros Now, $10. You just $10 or $30 a month for cable, or $100 a month for cable. It's just you're gonna have skinny bundles, and you're gonna have AVOD, and people are gonna want to watch their movies or their premium content. They're gonna want to watch sports, and they're gonna want to watch some sort of news. And so, figuring that out over the course of the next kind of 5 to 10 years it's going to amalgamate, right? So companies that are now SVOD models will move to AVOD, or they'll be part of skinny bundles. I think Apple Plus is actually, it's going to be interesting what they roll out.
I might disagree with all of you. Okay. Excellent. One thing which we have talked since morning is AVODs, SVODs, and all that stuff. What we are finding in the market is the linear channels on the OTT. And monetization of that has been, like we have found that is taking off much faster than the WAD monetization, advertising on the WADs and the AVODs and all that stuff. I'll just give you an example. I'm just coming out of the Indian elections, right? One of the largest democratic elections in the world. We were carrying 9 news channels. And for 1 month, for the last whole month, can you believe it? Advertisers were walking in, and we did not have space for them on there were no slots available. The prices of slots went up more than 100 times the normal selling price of the slot. So that is a particular area which we have all been ignoring since morning. That we have all been talking about AVODs, okay, I want to watch this and this, that. But there is a very large demand for news and sports, and the channels, and the advertising on those channels. And, I might not be able to name the channels because of the whole election stuff. I don't want to be in prison by naming them. But the fact is, that is something which is catching like a wildfire. And there seems to be a sense of trying to intentionally ignore that. Because I go from seminar to seminar, place to place, we are all talking WADs, AVODs. Okay, millennials want to watch when they want to watch it. But the curation of the content is equally important. And we are seeing a huge amount of demand for that. And there's another change which is happening. These linear channels, when they were launched about 5 to 6 years ago, I come from a broadcast industry as such, and I've spent a lot of time in that. We used to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to launch a new channel. Today, you can launch a channel in less than $10,000. Right? Now that is creating this content to be bundled in a fashion to make it into a channel. And that creates a huge opportunity for ads and monetization. So we are finding that a big, area in the market, and we've just, we have just seen it in the last 1 month. We had to, at one stage, we were getting abused by the advertisers that why can't you provide me a slot? So that's it, and I expect next year that when the American elections comes, that is exactly what is going to be here, because OTT is going to pick up. And the news on OTT, right, is the biggest growth. Sorry if I've
No, it's good.
I think from my standpoint, when I say AVOD, it does include linear in that. And so
Okay,
I use
no,
AVOD in the A part of that instead of the VOD part of that, to be fair. But yeah, Pluto
Same here.
TVs of the world are doing great with linear, and I think there is a great opportunity for that lean back experience where you have someone curating what's going on. But I have like SVOD, TVOD, and AVOD are the three groupings.
Right, like then I missed out on the AWOD. Mine was AWOD is.
Just VOD.
Yeah, it
So
was
we're
kinda
going to
more
have to come up with another term instead of live/linear.
ad-based, really. So we're moving on here, and I want to get the trenders involved on this next question, but first to our expert panel. Let's talk about the nature of content itself. It's really changed, this idea of short form versus long form. We talked about many different types of forms of content to meet the audiences. We even talked about long form being parsed out and through social and so on. There's this tension between the movies, right, and the Oscars. That, are you going to win an Oscar or an Emmy? How do you define those categories? We all know about the pushback on Netflix qualifying to be at some of these award shows. How is content changing? Because we have so much original content on OTT. How do you define it? Do the content windows change? Does it even matter anymore? Who wants to take that? And then I'm eager to get the trender perspective on that. Who wants to jump in on that? Eric, why don't you start?
Okay. I'll take a shot here. Well, I mean, I think, a data point I saw the other day is YouTube's fastest growing platform is connected TV. YouTube is traditionally considered, most people consider YouTube a short form or UGC platform, but in reality, that content is being consumed in the living room, right? Because if you spend time parsing through that, what you may find is there's tons of documentaries, there's other kinds of longer form content perhaps, or maybe the experience of viewing a lot of clips in a row sequentially is pleasurable to do sitting in your living room, right? Same thing, I think, as we heard earlier today, I spend, when I'm on the road, quite a lot of time on my mobile device, but watching Netflix or others in bits and pieces and fits and starts. So is that long form? Is that mobile? So I think, at the end of the day, I don't think that there are fast and firm rules about what type of consumption happens on what device. I think what we do see from my perspective as I look at mobile as the best place to find new customers and bring them into your universe, because the tools to acquire customer in that place, and the best way to gain engagement is to push them from that mobile device at some point in the future to a living room experience where you have longer engagement times and greater satisfaction with the user. So I think if you look at it rather as an ecosystem where users discover you and your content, you have content and use cases that are optimized for either opportunity, but for us, if you're talking about monetization, the best opportunity is in the living room, then ultimately the cycle pushes people to the living room. That's the way I tend to look at the content. I don't really care if short form pushes people into the app ecosystem and then I can get them to watch long form in the living room, great, or vice versa. So it's just about completing the engagement cycle.
Prem?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we had traditionally been a movie company. We'd been a studio, and now we've kind of migrated to an OTT platform, actually the reverse of what Netflix has done. But we found that binge watching has become a big thing. And so we started doing originals. And, we'll do 10 episode original series, whether drama or comedy. And we've gotten lucky, and a couple of them have been IMDb rated 9+. And as a result, that increases our subscriber base. So it works. We found this Eros Now Quickies, which we started with dates gone bad. And it's about first dates that have gone wrong. And that's not just about Indians, that transcends internationally. And it's just funny. And so it goes back to a premise that I said earlier is I think premium content wins. And we do the movies, we do the 40, 50 films a year, and we put them on our OTT platform. And then we have this massive library. But then we're also putting on our originals. And so to attract both the millennial users as well as people who are interested in these shows. And so I think it is a matter of content. We also have these quickies. But I think as we think about the whole landscape, it's really about producing the best content.
So Dave, when you tag your content in your library and your content management system, what are those tags? What do they look like? Short form, long form? Like what do the new categories look like?
Yeah, the definitions I think are going to be actually more and more important as we go forward because it becomes metadata that's needed for the discovery process. And so I don't know if it'll be, you'll tag it long form, short form, because I still think in 5 years what's an Academy Award and what's an Emmy Award is going to be really, really difficult because I think those lines are going to get blurred. And some of the panelists before talked about it's going to come down to the storytellers and great acting, and whether that's a 15-minute or a 2-hour, it's going to get much more blurry. But I think where the definitions will become more and more important is going to be on the metadata. For things like Alexa to be magical, it does come back to what one of the other panelists said of all that linear catalog integration, all the stuff behind the curtain in terms of having enough information about that content so it can be discovered.
I have a very simple example on this. Indian movies, about 10 years ago, used to be minimum of 3 hours. All Indian movies used to be produced for 180 minutes, or 190 minutes to be precise. Today, you will not find even a single Indian movie being produced more than 110 minutes. Now,
I don't know
110...
if I agree with that.
120, okay? Between 110 and 120, that's, okay, let's take 90% of the movies are being produced that. You'd really rarely have 180 minutes movie today. Now, similarly, when you had the television shows, they were being produced, each episode was 22 to 27 minutes, typically a 22-minute episode. So it is coming to a point where based on the screen size you have and your attention span based on this, that's medically that's how they prove it, that the smaller the screen size, the shorter the attention span. So as we are going into the different screen sizes, that is where the length of the content would matter.
Okay, that's a great segue to our Trender panel. Thank you for being so patient. When you watch a show, first of all, what percentage of your video, TV, video, streaming online, what have you, is longer than half an hour? Just real quick, Carissa.
For me, probably like 2% because
Only 2%?
Well, for Netflix, yeah.
Okay. So you're watching a lot of, short?
Well, they're like 26 minutes.
26 minutes. Not a minute over. Okay.
I would say 60% is probably more than 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm about 50-50.
Okay, interesting. So 2%, 60-40. And then how do you define a movie versus a TV show, Vlad?
Usually a TV show is part of a series.
Okay. That's how you define it. It's a serial.
Yeah, if it's like a one-time thing, like it doesn't have to be really long. It could be a short movie.
Okay. Donna?
Yeah, one time thing.
Oh, that one was too easy.
Yeah.
Carissa?
Probably like, I think I agree.
Okay.
Maybe the
All right.
length. Yeah.
So it's okay. It's based on the duration. Next question, Kurt.
So, okay, so we're being inundated right now with Plus. So we've got Disney Plus coming. We've got Apple Plus. Everybody's kind of waiting and holding their breath to say, well, what's going to happen when Disney Plus comes along? I would love to hear what you guys think is coming this year with the launch of these new services and how that's going to affect incumbents.
I'll start. So I think I'm of the mind that Disney Plus is going to be extremely successful. I think it's a no-brainer if you have a household with kids, given the brand safety issues that frequently are popping up with YouTube and other platforms. I think a very curated walled garden of familiar, family-friendly content is going to succeed very well. I don't think it's a win-lose scenario. I think there's been a lot of headline chasing, soundbite chasing in the press of, is Netflix killers and this, that, and the other. I see a room in the ecosystem for both and many more. Where I think where you start to hit a threshold is you say, Disney Plus is a very clear target, right? It's kids and family, and it has some of the best IP in the world, right? And just imagine if once they start releasing, some of these highly branded properties exclusively on the platform down the road, it's a no-brainer, especially if you have kids. But I think the value prop starts to become less clear with each incremental service beyond that. Warner Media, NBC Universal, whatever, CBS All Access. Eventually, you start to say how many of these can one household possibly subscribe to? I look at it and say between Netflix, Amazon Prime. In my household, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu. I have those three. I have more content than I could ever imagine to watch in 10 lifetimes. You really have to convince me either it's got to be extremely niche, specialized to something I love, or I'm going to feel like it's incrementally you're not delivering any more value over what I already have. So I think that's the environment that any of these scale services that are going to be entering the market are going to find themselves if they don't have a very. I saw there's a great blog, Stratechery, if you've ever read this blog. Highly recommend it. I think every service has to have a job, right? What is the job of a service? And I think if the service doesn't have a job that's very clearly defined, it's going to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I actually agree with Eric on this. I think, look, it's not a zero-sum game. I think there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. Disney is certainly going to be a winner. They've been a winner for many years. They have terrific content. I think with the acquisition of Fox, they actually get stronger, believe it or not, especially in places like India, where Fox has Hotstar, so they have cricket and they have the movies. So that's going to be a very formidable competitor, and they've got great content. I think with Apple Plus, it's going to be interesting because they don't have the Netflixes, the Showtimes, or maybe Showtimes. Actually, Showtime did not sign up, but HBO did. So it's going to be interesting to see what they have. But as things move towards skinny bundles in the future, with Apple Plus potentially having sports, news, and content, movie, drama, etc., comedy, it could be a very, very interesting competitor. And I think look, Apple has found a way over the years to, whether they've revolutionized the music industry. They've revolutionized other, they take what other people have, i.e. Sony, and make it better. And they've done that many times over. And I think IBM, same thing. They did the same thing over with IBM. And so, again, I wouldn't bet against Apple.
So I'm hearing Apple sort of taking on a role of a super aggregator.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Disney taking on a role of a sort of super content provider. So the Disney brand is content. Yeah. The Apple brand is the marketplace, if you will. And I'd be really interested to hear what Dave thinks in this situation, because you guys have your feet in sort of both camps, right?
Yeah, although at the end of the day, it's going to be great for customers to have that additional content, and so we're super excited about having Disney Plus and Apple Plus on the Amazon platform. I think there's two things to be thinking about, though. First of all, as we get more and more subscriptions, more and more apps, it's going to make it that much more fragmented, and so it still comes back to how do you make sure customers can find the content in that app. So, having a content-forward UI, having catalog integrations so that the search engines can actually find all of the content that is within those is going to be really, really important. And so that's one thing we're going to be working on. The second is that I do think Amazon, with the concept of Prime Video channels, is going to be something that we want to have more and more people kind of going through the super aggregator, as you called it, where I think that even if you have multiple subscriptions, you want to have one place to go and manage those. And we've had great success with HBO, Showtime, Stars, and we'd love to get the others as well.
So Dave, in addition to the content conversation, how important is having that distribution, right? The distribution network to get that content out there? Because those are very different entities, right? You look at Apple, and they've got, I don't know, a billion devices out there they can market their content to. Fire TV, same thing. How does that change your strategy around content?
Well, yeah, distribution is super important, and you probably have been following the headlines between Amazon and Google, Amazon and Apple and Microsoft, all these big guys, and at the end of the day, Apple TV Plus is going to put their product on Fire TV, and so they know they need to have distribution beyond Apple TV, and they'll be on Roku, and I'm sure they'll be even on the Android TVs. And so, at the end of the day, you need to have the that reach that you get across all those different platforms.
Okay, we only have 5 minutes left, so I do want to get it. This is a great lineup, and there's a ton of questions, so I do want to get a chance to get some questions here, and we might go a little bit 5 minutes over. So, first question, Donna, you have a mic?
Yep.
Table 2, jumping out of a seat right here. Name, company, and question, please.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Simon Applebaum. I'm the producer and host of Tomorrow We Televise, the promo about television, Blog Talk Radio, and iHeartRadio, and I'm also with Media Village as a columnist. And we did a lot of talking today about interactivity, but there's one area of interactive that we didn't get into that I'd like to get into now, particularly now that Dave is here. And that is the ability of using your smart television set or your smart TV device, like Amazon Fire TV, to order any product or services you want. Whether it is an Uber ride, whether it is a visit with Airbnb or Zillow, a pizza from Papa John's, entertainment from StubHub, or if you have Amazon Fire TV in any way, operating system in your set, plug-in, streaming stick, you can order any Amazon merchandise you want. That's my understanding. I want to ask the Trender first. I want Dave for comment. Trenders, did you know that that's available to you if you have a smart TV set or smart device, that you can order products and services through it? And I'm curious if you would. And then, Dave, I want to get your response to that.
I did not know that I could order stuff through my TV, and I probably wouldn't, just because the process, like, you'd have to use your remote to navigate your way around that, and I would find it way easier just to go on my phone or my computer to Amazon's website and do it from there.
Even if you had artificial intelligence like Alexa, where you can control the set with your voice.
I think I still would want to have a certain level of customization where I can go and choose specific options, and I don't know if I would trust the AI to just do everything exactly how I want it to be. Yeah.
Well, I have an Alexa, and I've ordered things from Amazon from Alexa, but I didn't know about some of the other things that you were discussing.
Whenever I want to get something from Amazon, I always go into the computer and do that little app thing, and then I had no idea that you could do it on TV or anything.
So little app thing trumps the TV, the smart TV.
Dave, what do you think? I mean, after all, it seems that if you were to publicize this through advertising or whatever, that there might be a major marketplace for commerce on the television set. Not just for Amazon, but for Apple TV, for Roku, for Chromecast, and for all the smart TV set makers.
Well, we've actually had the shopping channels and ability to shop on Fire TV for multiple years, and it really hasn't been something that customers are really going to the TV to do much shopping on. And so we do feel like there's an opportunity with Alexa and Far-Field Voice, because one of the challenges is you're watching TV, and then all of a sudden if you see in a commercial and you want to buy something, you have to find the remote and click on something, whereas if you have a Far-Field Voice enabled experience, you could just say, buy this. But even in those areas that we've been testing some stuff, and stay tuned, there's some exciting things coming, I think what we're finding is that the concept of interactive TV is going to be a lot higher in the funnel to begin with. Rather than going all the way to purchase, you're going to see where you can capture intent, either adding to cart or adding to list or voting on something, where you'll be able to have an interaction with Alexa or with your remote to kind of give a signal. But most of the time you're on a TV, you're wanting to watch TV, you're not wanting to shop. And so we think it's going to be kind of capturing things higher up in the funnel rather than the final purchase experience. But we will give you that option.
Let's try to get a couple more questions from the audience. Anyone? Really? Okay, back there. Tina, name, company, question.
Yep. Hi, I'm Tina Lloyd. I'm with Golf Channel and Golf Pass. We just launched our streaming service in February. So, a couple questions. I'm director of content strategy, but I'm very much operations at this point. We're a lean team. So, with metadata, just curious, from a rights standpoint, licensing, all of that stuff, how do you monitor when things need to come down, or what rights and restrictions there are on pieces of content? Because from our side, we're finding it very difficult that we have the programming team, they're on Compass, and we're on Excel sheets, and we're just trying to figure it out. So I guess more than anything, it's like, what's in your tech stack from a metadata point of view?
I can take a stab at that. So we use a company called RightsLine. Some of you may or may not be familiar with them. It's a rights management platform that basically allows you to keep to manage both at the metadata level and the contractual rights level. It's an open platform. It's API driven. We basically leverage those APIs and bring them into our OVP. And we basically use the takedowns. We basically can schedule takedowns to happen automatically based off of the metadata in RightsLine. So it requires coordination with your OVP platform to orchestrate RightsLine is just the data. The OVP platform, you have to have logic to what to do with that data. You have to say, if date is expired, then pull it off the service, right? To oversimplify. But I think we like that kind of a model because it's easy for business affairs teams and other people to actually leverage and use those systems, but they still are best in breed, modern, extensible platforms that allow us to integrate with the OVP.
Deepak, you wanted to jump in on that?
You being in the sports, we do some stuff for multiple sports channels where they are buying rights for a particular country or a particular region, even for the live sports. And when you are either on the linear or on the non-linear, that at OTT, we have got, based on the metadata entered originally when you buy the rights. Let's assume you buy the golf rights for US, and they are only for US. Or you buy another master's rights only for Europe. So when you buy the rights itself, you enter that this event is only for this rights. So the playout systems and the backend systems which we process, they will only have it only for that particular region, and the content for that period in the other region will be a different content. We can have a conversation over the drink. You'll have to buy me a drink for that. But we do for a lot of your competitors, that sort of a thing all across the globe.
We'll buy you both a drink, and we have time for one more. Yes, Kurt's going to add something.
So one of the things that I've noticed over the course of the last couple of years is the importance of content management systems, and how the older content management systems that were built around, say, cable, where they had to do some kind of rights management and that kind of thing, they're all of a sudden having to scale up to these huge numbers. What used to be, 100 elements of metadata for a title is now 1,000 and counting. And so when we talk about metadata, it includes things like rights enforcements and geo-access restrictions, and the artwork, the posters, and which poster do you serve to which customer, and all of that. And so there is a huge demand right now for the next generation of content management systems to basically do all of this work on the back end and make it so that when you ingest the content into your system, all of those rights actually flow in directly. So you don't have a bunch of people with spreadsheets trying to figure out, should we pull that content down
Tina,
today?
we won't tell anyone. It's okay.
So,
all right.
No, but that's what happens. But there are a lot of companies right now in sort of startup emergence mode doing things called media access management. And MAM systems are sort of merging with CMS systems. Yeah. So what's happening is they're having to migrate. They used to have content management on the production side, and then they would have content management on the distribution and delivery side. And what we're finding out, because of the velocity of the content moving from production to distribution and delivery, you can't really afford to have two systems like that. You have to have one. It has to be able to span the entire workflow. So that's a huge area of development. And I encourage you to go take a look at, the various systems and companies in the MAM space.
Just to add to what you've just said, I'll just take 1 second on that. We are even getting requests these days that this content should be streamed only on this particular device. Like this content should be only on a TV made after this year or only on these models. So now we have actually gone to a point where it can be that specific that this particular content is displayed only on, let's take, only on handphones and not on televisions. So, or not on computers. So based on the beacons we get, I don't want to bore everybody with the technology here, but it can go to even that extent now.
So Kurt and I have had a little chat here, and we decided that we all need to drink more than we need another question from the audience. So let's give our panel of experts, our trainer panel, a round of applause. Fantastic job. Thank you very much, everybody.